Okay, so good evening, everyone, and I'm happy to see you all tonight. And thank you guys for allotting time during your week to attend an ACE Commerce Philippines event. And I hope everyone's excited because we will be starting our webinar in a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, so hi again, everyone, and welcome to this week's ACE Commerce event. And thank you for joining us for today's exciting webinar. So, my name is Patrice, and I'm a Community Associate of ACE Commerce Philippines, a cross-border and entrepreneur learning community. So, before I call on our speaker for today's webinar, let me introduce you guys to what ACE Commerce is. So, Amazing Cross-Border Entrepreneur Commerce, or ACE Commerce, is a global entrepreneur community that started in Indonesia. So ACE Commerce is for anyone interested in learning about building successful cross-border commerce by exploring opportunities in a wide range of commerce, as well as having amazing insights and guidance from awesome founders and entrepreneurs. And of course, we also strive to bring in amazing founders, mentors, and entrepreneurs to talk to our community of aspiring successful entrepreneurs. And we strive to provide the best online resources and content to our community to help them towards entrepreneurial success. So if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship and get updated for upcoming events, please like our Facebook page. And in order to connect with fellow entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, you can join our Telegram group so you can network and ask advice from the community. So lastly, I'd like to go over a few items for those who want to have an e-certificate. So our participants must fill out the evaluation form during the end of this webinar. So the link will be given at the end of this talk and will be open until 11:59 p.m. only today. So you must send a proof of attendance at this webinar. It can just be a screenshot of this live and also a proof of your membership at our website. So it can be a screenshot of your account on ACE Commerce Philippines website. So in case some of you guys are not a member yet, then here's how you can sign up. Okay, so I hope everyone here is already a member, but if you're not, you can just sign up at our website after this webinar. So anyways, that's all from me because I know everyone is excited to meet our speaker. So let me introduce to you right now our main speaker for today is Mr. Sijat Tianza, the co-founder of Taiki, an owl-driven consumer finance platform, and Spec Studios, a design and no-code agency. So he is also a product manager at Mad Eats, a Filipino cloud kitchen. So this webinar is perfect for every student who want to know how to balance studying and starting and maintaining a business at the same time. So everyone, let us all welcome and give a round of applause to Mr. Siege Atienza. So hi, Mr. Siege.
Hi, thanks Patrice for the introduction. So let me just share my screen. Right. Okay. So hi guys. Again, I'm Sijit Yanza. I'm a co-founder of Taiki and Spec Studios and a product manager at Mad Eats. And today I'll be talking about life as a student founder. So I'm currently based in Manila and I have a passion for product management, UX, no code development, and building communities. So again, currently I'm working on Taiki, an AI-driven financial wellness app, Spec Studios, our design and no-code agency, and Mad Eats, a cloud kitchen for Filipinos. Previously, I was working at NextPay, a business banking solution. So I've also been part of the On Deck cohort and currently a Google Developer Student Clubs lead in my university, Ateneo de Manila. So I'm going to be talking about a few things today. Um, Talking about the life of being a student founder, talking about how it works, and essentially just a quick cuento about my journey into the startup space, how building experience and skill sets from jobs and internships really help you, the highs and lows of being a student founder, some tips and tools to balance work and student life, and just overall getting into that startup mindset. So I want to start off by telling you guys a bit about how I started and got into the startup space and all the different things that led to where I am now. So when I entered college, I only had one goal in mind: to work at Google. Now, I actually don't remember where that goal came from, but I just knew that I wanted to. I wanted to stay in that office. I wanted to work in tech. So with that, I enrolled and I got in computer engineering in Ateneo de Manila. So when I took that computer engineering course, I was thinking, okay, this is my ticket to Google. This is my ticket to the States, right? But apparently, it didn't vibe much for me. So I'm going to get into that later. But one thing that I'm really happy about when I entered Ateneo was that in the same year that I was a freshman, they started what we call the Google Developer Student Clubs in Ateneo. So Google Developer Student Clubs is basically an organization that advocates for using technology to uplift communities. And in my head, honestly, when I joined, sabi ko, shucks, ito na yung ticket ko to Google. So yeah, these five people here are the founders. And it was a funny thing. Like I was just applying to be like one of the officers, but eventually got invited to be part of the executive board and was given the privilege to go to Google to lead the organization and until now still be part of the executive board. Just seeing how the org grew the past few years has been really great. So with that in mind, like going back to my first point, I started off in computer engineering, but joining this org changed my life. It made me realize that computer engineering wasn't all the tech there is, and that and basically like technology isn't all just websites and apps. So enter UX design. So thanks to my work at GDSC and thanks to the people I was surrounded by, I got introduced to the concept of UX design. And the thing is, before I entered college, I already knew or I was already working as a designer for different organizations. I was a graphic designer and I wanted to find a way to merge technology with design. So back then I didn't know what to do, but thanks to Google Developer Student Clubs, I got introduced to the concept of UX design. So this entry point changed the whole trajectory of my life. Um, I started off as someone working in both hardware and software and realized that, coding, programming, not for me. UX design became what my career was. UX design started it all. And shout out to some of my friends who helped me transition into here, Polly and Harvey. Like, thank you so much. So UX design really defined my career, and that led me to make the first big decision, first big shift in my mind. shifting away from computer engineering. So in 2020, I shifted away from BS Computer Engineering and went into BS Information Technology Entrepreneurship, which is basically a course or a degree for tech startups. So I was really grateful that I found this degree. I was really grateful that my friends were already part of it and introduced me to it, because eventually, like, knowing where I am now, tech startups became my life. And it's a really unique course. It's a really unique degree, and I'm grateful to be taking it. So, moving on, after shifting into ITE, which is the shorthand for Information Technology Entrepreneurship, I continued on with my work as a UX designer. Um, with the Google Developer Student Clubs, I started working on Pavilion, which I got put on the spot for. They threw me into the project and made me the product manager for it. And it was a really good experience. It made me fall in love with tech more. It made me fall in love with app development more. It made me fall in love with product management and UX design more. So eventually, after creating this project, I decided it's time to apply for some internships. And prior to this, I mean, after this project, I got into an internship with with an energy solutions company. I got an internship with an ed tech company, and I got an internship with a social networking company. And all of those are really great. It helped my experience a lot. It helped me build up my skills in UX design, but nothing helped me as much as NextPay did. So after three other internships and a few freelance projects, I joined NextPay. Back then, NextPay was a small, tiny team of 9. So the two founders, two designers, one customer delight, and 4 engineers. And that's me. And that's my boss, who I met through an event that we had at Google Developer Student Clubs. So joining NextPay really shaped and defined the way that I think as a startup founder. It really defined and shaped the way I think as a product manager, as a UX designer, and I can attribute almost all of my career growth to this company so far. So after joining NextPay, I also did some freelance projects along the way with my friends Polly and Cess. We did some stuff in e-commerce, we did some stuff in fintech, and all of that. And those really also helped in building that experience that I'm talking about, which I'll get into later. And as a bonus thing, when I joined NextPay, I thought I was just joining a small company. I was joining a company that had really good potential. But upon like 2 months into my internship, we got into Y Combinator. And that was a really big thing. Um, Very unexpected. NextPay was a late applicant. We got in on the day that the cohort started. So this was a really big moment, and it really made me fall in love with the startup life even more. So joining NextPay, experiencing the thrill of Y Combinator made me realize, oh my God, the startup life is for me, which led me to build my first startup out of a class project that we did in the first semester of my second year in college. Quick link. So these provided me a lot of thrills, like, oh my gosh, I'm a founder. I'm building my own startup. I'm building an actual product that we're deploying, that we're showing to people. We're building a product that companies will use, that businesses will use. And the thrill of that made me fall in love with being, in the startup world even more. So essentially, we wanted to build a software that small businesses, social sellers could use to manage their orders, to take orders, to manage their finances as well. And it was really fun. It was a great experience. And in fact, we got into the top 5 out of 528 teams at one point for a certain competition, Sandbox. So this propelled my love for the startup world even more. I was able to pitch on a national stage. I experienced talking to investors. I experienced getting roasted on stage. So these were really amazing experiences, and it helped me learn a lot. But eventually, Quicklink grew to become my first failed startup, which I will talk about further later. So after this ended, like after this competition and after leaving the company, I went back to NextPay. I came back as a design ops manager and eventually became the product manager for the design system. So you guys can see that career trajectory where I started with UX, I went into UI as well, and then eventually like going back to the startup life as a founder, went to design operations, and eventually back to product management. So these different experiences helped me build up a lot of things and led me to where I am today. So where am I today, right? So Right now, I'm currently building Taiki, a financial wellness app that's powered by AI and insights. So so far, we've been targeting to launch this month, but due to school, it's been difficult. So we're moving our launch to next month. We've won second place in the global demo day, and our team has been growing. We started as a team of, well, it started with me and my co-founder JM. We grew to a team of 5 to 6, and now we're 14. So it's a really great experience owning and working with your own startup. And at the same time, I also started a side hustle with two of my friends, Sess and Polly. We worked on Spec Studios, which is basically a design and no code agency where we work with clients to build them different apps, to design products for them, to build websites for them. And we've worked with clients in financial technologies, Web3, which is crypto and NFTs, even schools. We're working with Ateneo, some organizations, some corporate, some big companies as well. So, as you can see, the experiences that I got from working with NextPay, from working with my other internships, from working on those different side projects, led me to be able to work on these two things right now, which is essentially a mobile app and an agency that builds mobile and web apps. And currently, I also started a new role, actually just 2 weeks ago with Mad Eats as a product manager. So a lot of things have happened over the course of the pandemic, and there's a lot to take away from it. So what did I get from that experience, right? So what I'm trying to say here is if you're working to be a student founder, if you're working to start with the entrepreneurial life, it's really great to use different companies, different jobs, different internships as a starting point. So being an entrepreneur means that you're going to be building solutions for people. You're going to be building businesses. But how will you get the idea of building that business? How will you get the knowledge that you need to build solutions for people if you don't go through the experience first? So what I'm saying here is as a student founder, it was really valuable for me to go through all of that before I started building Taiki and Spec Studios. So what should you look out for when going through jobs and internships? So the main point of internships and even entry level jobs is for you to hone your skills. You want to learn the ins and outs of the company that you work for, and don't just focus on the department where you don't just focus on your department when you begin learning. What do I mean by that? Let's use my time at NextPay as an example. I entered NextPay as a UX design intern, but I didn't limit my learning to just UX. I didn't limit my learning to just design. So NextPay was my first actual startup experience, and what I got from there was a lot. I got to observe growth in marketing, so I started understanding how marketing for startups work, how growth strategies are important for B2B businesses, how community building is an important part of marketing as well. I got hands-on experience with customer delight, which basically means I learned how to communicate with customers. I learned how to make sure that they're happy with their experience. Basically, customer support, which is something I've never experienced in the past. And I also understood business strategy, like seeing how NextPay progressed from where it was when I entered to the where it is right now, helped me understand how a business continues to scale, how a business plans out their different rollout of features, their different hyper growth activities and initiatives. And lastly, I learned how to pitch. So what I got from working at NextPay wasn't just the actual honing of my UX design skills. While that did improve a lot thanks to my mentor, I also learned the different ins and outs of a startup as a whole. I got to experience the different departments. I got to experience the different aspects of a startup like culture, growth, scaling up, business strategy, customer success, support and delight, even finance. So the point is finding that job, finding that internship that will help you grow is a really crucial part of beginning your life as a founder, or in my case, as a student founder. So, another thing that you want to do as you go across your experiences, as you meet more people, is to find yourself a mentor. So, I found my mentor in NextPay, Aldrich. So, Aldrich helped me a lot with growing not just as a designer, but as an entrepreneur in general. Aldrich started off as a designer and he became the founder of a co-founder of NextPay. And you want to find someone to guide you and answer your questions. Aldrich helped me a lot helped me grow a lot in my design skills. He helped me grow a lot in understanding how products work. He helped me grow a lot in understanding how a business works and even how to maintain a good team culture. So finding a mentor is really important, and you can do this by simply reaching out. The thing is with us Filipinos, meron tayong mahiyain na culture, and we want to get rid of that. Just cold message someone on LinkedIn, someone you idolize, hop on a coffee chat with them, ask them, hey, I heard that blah 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 blah. This is something that you do. I'm particularly interested in it. Would love to hop on a chat with you or on a call with you soon so we could talk more about it. Like, kapalan mo lang mukha mo. You see, it's the thing is, with finding mentors, with finding people to learn from, you gotta remove that hiya culture and find someone to guide you and answer your questions. That way, you can ask how to approach a certain thing, what their thoughts are on other stuff like your case studies, your projects, or if this is the right thing to do, you know? Really good advice. Find your mentors, LinkedIn, Twitter, even Facebook groups like Startup PH. There are so many ways to do it. All you have to do is get rid of that hiya culture because the worst answer you could get is a no. So, another thing that's really helpful for becoming a student founder is to try and work on projects and to try freelancing. So, what's a better way to learn than working on something hands on? Like I mentioned earlier, before we formed Spec Studios, Seth, Polly, and I were working on a lot of freelance projects from June 2020 until today. So all of these things that we've built, all the websites, all the apps, all the designs that we've made, these helped us hone our skills, not just in design, not just in development, but in so many other aspects that you'll need as a founder and as an entrepreneur too. So, customer delight, again, a very crucial part of being a founder. This is something that people often overlook, but honestly, the way that you talk to customers, the way that you interact with them and manage them is really important. So, from freelancing, Polysas and I got experience handling clients. Now, what did we get from that? For me personally and Taiki, that helped me understand how to manage our customers as well, how to make sure that they have a good experience, how to make sure that we make everything clear for them, the way that you do when you talk, the way that you would do it when you talk to a client. So, customer delight, really important. Project management. I mean, we wouldn't be able to do all of the freelance projects if we didn't manage it properly. So, besides just the designing, besides just the development, we were able to learn how to manage projects between the three of us. You know, it helped us delegate better, it helped us split things, break things apart, and that helped us understand how that would apply in a startup context as well. Technical skills, design, development, of course, it's a given. When you work on freelance projects, you get to learn more about your design patterns. You get to learn more about the way that you develop stuff. I'm talking in the context of tech here. Credibility. The fact that you've been able to work on 10 projects, 15 projects, and shipped it successfully and help businesses builds credibility for you, and that will help you talk to investors even more. Investors aren't always after the idea. Sometimes they're after the founders, and that's a big part of choosing who or what to invest in. And if you're someone who's credible, someone who's shown experience in shipping products, in finishing projects for people, for companies, then that adds to your credibility. That makes you look better in the eyes of an investor. And another thing that I do personally, good source of capital. The money that I earn from freelancing, the money that I earn from my work at Spec Studios, I sometimes put it into Taiki. So it's a good source of capital. Freelance, it's a good funnel, you know. You do your freelance work, you get the money, then you put it into the business that you're trying to build. So if you're trying to build a startup, maybe freelancing is a good opportunity for you to raise your funds. Who needs investors when you can bootstrap with your own capital, right? So, with that in mind, another thing is don't be afraid to fail. Failure brings you the best lessons. So, I mentioned earlier that back in June 2021, I experienced a huge failure. I experienced my first failed startup. And I learned a lot from that. That gave me a lot of experiences, that gave me a lot of insights, and that gave me a lot of things to bring along to my next venture. So one of them was team management. You know, the importance of actually making sure that everyone in your team is okay, everyone in your team is aligned, everyone in your team is on the same page. The importance of company culture. Back then, culture wasn't really a big issue for me. I thought since we were just five, it'll be easy to maintain. But apparently, it's really important to invest in it as early as you can because that really forms and can make or break your startup or your business. And another thing is what not to do for product strategy. So, falling in love with the solution, focusing on building a minor solution for a major problem, and the importance of growth marketing and community, something that I overlooked when I was building my first startup. So, falling in love with the problem as well is something that you need to do. So, these are things that I learned because of failure. These are things that I learned because of the mistakes I made. And these helped me become a better, I guess, entrepreneur, better product manager, better designer. Because failures, while they do hurt at the moment, like it's gonna lead you to learn and discover new things. After that entire fiasco, I invested my time into learning new things. I invested my time in making sure that in my next venture and my next project, things are done correctly or things are done in the right way. And learning from failures is a really crucial part. So don't be afraid to fail. So what are some of the highs and lows naman of being a student founder? Because of course, like all I've talked about so far is building your experience to actually prepare you for that life, to prepare you to be a student founder, to prepare you to be an entrepreneur, to prepare you to manage your own businesses. But what are some of the things that you should expect with this life that I chose? So let's talk about the highs first. Well, first, it's a better experience than school. Sometimes it tempts you to drop out, but don't, I guess. So what do I mean by that? School teaches you the technical stuff. It teaches you math. It teaches you concepts of marketing. It teaches you concepts of finance, concepts of design thinking. But those are all concepts. How do you actually practice them? You practice them by making your own business. You practice them by joining companies to help you out and with learning. So overall, the work life, having your own startup or even just working for another company is a way better experience than just school alone. It helps you learn a lot. It helps you improve your skills, hone your skills, and even your not just your technical skills, but even your soft skills. Next, as a student founder, you more often than not, you're working with a safety net. So what do I mean by that? Picture yourself in your late 30s trying to form a startup. If you want to form a startup, you can't if you want to form a startup full time, you have to drop your current, job security. You have to drop your work. That means if your startup doesn't work, then you might lose money, right? But as a student, you're working with a safety net because you're still a student. Well, this doesn't apply to everyone, but at least in my case, I still live in my parents' house. I still get driven to school or I drive to school, but the gas is paid for by my parents. I don't pay for I don't pay for a lot of bills. I don't pay for groceries. So that means the money that I have, I can put into my startup without the fear of, going broke, right? So technically, as a student founder, you're kind of working with a safety net. This doesn't apply to everyone, but it's something that we have to acknowledge that it's an advantage. Um, as a student founder, you have that safety net. You have rest back for when you're building a startup. And another thing is you have a big network at a young age. So I started the startup life when I was how old was I? 19. Yeah. So I started the startup life when I was 19. And at the age of 19, I was already talking to people in their 40s as if we were magtropa. Until now, I'm 20, turning 21 this June. I'm talking to people in their 40s, 50s, 30s. Like magkatropa lang kami. Sometimes I even drink with them. So you're already getting a big network at a young age. You're forming a huge network that's going to help you in the future when you look for jobs, when you need referrals, when you need help with something, even when you're looking for co-founders. Because from a young age, they already knew you and they knew you as that guy who hustled despite being in school. So that's going to help a lot. That network in the startup world, in the tech world, in any business, networking is one of the most important things that you could do to get job security. And at a young age, as a student founder or as a working student, having that network has been really helpful. Which leads to the next point, huge career boost. So, okay, as a student founder, when I graduate, if the startup is successful, nice. I have a job. I'm self-employed. When I graduate and the startup might not be successful, either way, I got all that experience, it bulked up my resume, I can find a job. So being a student founder and forming your own side hustle at a young age gives you a huge career boost in the sense that you're building everything that I mentioned earlier. You're building your experience, you're improving your skills, you're bulking up your resume and all of that. So being a student founder, being an entrepreneur, working on a side hustle at an early age will give you a huge boost and a huge like first step into the real world. And of course, you make a lot of friends along the way. Like I mentioned, I'm drinking with 30-year-olds. So you make a lot of friends along the way. You start to meet new people, you find like-minded people with you, and it's a really fun experience. Some of my friends are actually watching right now, and these are friends I formed within my ITE community, but at the same time, we're all working on startups. So it's a really great, solid support system. It's a great group. You make friends, basically. People you can rant to about your work, people you can cry to or break down with, people you can co-work with. It's a really great experience, and that's one of if not my favorite things about this whole startup life right now. Now the lows. Well, not super lows, but lows either way. So obviously, balancing school and the entrepreneurial life can be difficult. So I'm dying. Joke. It's really difficult, especially now that it's finals week. Having to balance all of it. We have two client projects due. We're trying to launch Taiki. I have Mad Eats and then school. It can be difficult, but you just have to find the right way to manage it, at least in your context. Now, another thing, as a student founder, you may be underestimated because of age. So, oh, you're young, or you're young, you're still a student. What do you know? I've heard that a lot, even from the people around you, even from your immediate network. Like, you're young, but ka nagaganyan? Why are you doing that? You're still young, you don't have experience in corporate yet. Why would you form your own business? Your age may cause you to be underestimated, but don't let that, take away the spirit. Next, difficulty getting investments. So far with the investors that we've talked to, there's always one condition that needs to be fulfilled. You need to drop out. So as a student, it's hard to get investments because they know you're not full time with the startup. You're still a student, and obviously that's still your priority, or at least for some people. So it's gonna be difficult getting investments, not just because of that, but also because of age. Yeah, if you're not credible enough, if you don't build up your experience, if you don't show that you know what you're doing, then it's going to be hard because you're young, and that's a really big barrier most of the time. Next, sometimes, you just start to wish you were just a college student, drinking out on Fridays, not having to worry about whether or not your business can run 2 more months, whether not having to worry about, maintaining a good culture because two people might leave your company. Like, these are stuff that you're not supposed to experience at this age. Sometimes you just wish you were a college student, but you got to work through that. It's really worth it. It's a fun experience. For me, the pros outweigh the cons. And lastly, sleep. I miss sleep. No, kidding. I still sleep. But yeah, that's something that, it's going to be a little less unless you find the perfect way to balance it. Because, of course, your mind's going to be racing. How can I do X with my business? How can I do Y with my business? Oh, shucks, I have finals tomorrow at 5. So you're going to lose sleep. You're going to get stressed. Sometimes it gets too stressful. It can lead to burnout, but just having the right way to manage it will help you out. Which is the next point. How would you balance work and student life? So I have a few tips here that my friends and I follow. So I have a lot of friends, or at least in my circle, we're all working students. And we've all had experience with startups, we've all had experience with being employed, and we all help each other balance things out. So, first, set up your own project management system. Very, very important, especially when you're juggling a lot of things. Context switching is really difficult. I used to rely on the stickies on the MacBook, but it's not effective, especially when you're starting to have a lot of different stuff that you need to do now. So personally, I use Notion. As you can see here, I have things mapped out on a calendar. This Monday was pretty deadly. Each of them are a page where I specify the type, if it's a quick win, if it's high priority, if it's something I can delegate, also what project it's part of. And these five right here are the ways that I personally segregate the stuff that I need to do. So if it's a chore, most likely it's a quick win, like, oh, I just have to send an email or I just have to submit this thing. If it's the brain, it means to learn. So essentially, like, it's a learning session. I need to study, I need to read about something. The headphones mean deep work, which means I'm dedicating at least 3 to 3 hours to just solely working on that thing to finish it. Telephone is for meeting, which is self-explanatory. And this goal right here is a strategy thing. So if I need to set some time aside just to strategize for the company or strategize what we do next, then these are really helpful. Like, I don't know, it's helpful for me because it lets me segregate the tasks properly and helps me identify what to do first and what to do last. So this works for me, but it might not work for everyone. So it's important that you find what project management system works for you. So next, your calendar is your best friend. So this is my calendar. Ooh. So when you're working and when you're a student, you have classes, you have meetings, you need time for deep work. So what's important is you plan in advance. One, I plan every Sunday. I plan out my week. And every night, I also look at my calendar just to respond to each calendar invite for the next day. So it's really important to plan in advance to make sure you're not missing anything and to make sure that things are, right in place. Next, dedicate time for deep work, which I mentioned earlier. Deep work is really, really important. And if you don't have it, then that's going to be hard for you, especially if you're a technical employee. Like if you're a technical guy, if you code, if you design, deep work's really important. In my calendar, there's not much deep work time because I guess as a PM, it's mostly meetings na talaga. But before this, when I was still in design, like I had a lot of deep work hours, and that's really, really important. So when you're setting up your calendar, make sure you set up time for deep work. Next is to dedicate time for breaks. My no-no hours are 12 to 1 and 6 to 7. So those are times where I'm not allowed to have meetings at all. And then at night, I try my best not to have any work past 11, which is not the case here, but most of the time. So next is strive for a sync first if possible. So if kaya namang, like, that statement, this meeting could have been an email. Strive for that, don't always rely on meetings. In the past, I used to meet with my group mates in school all the time just to assign stuff. And I thought, but tayo mag-meet? Why are we gonna meet if we're just gonna assign? Let's just do it asynchronously. So strive for a sync first. That way you own your time more and it's less mental load. Going from one meeting to another, helicoptering over them, it sucks. Lastly, schedule your breakdowns. Nah, I'm kidding. But okay, I used to do that. I think that was like early 2021 when things were really stressful. Like, if you're gonna cry, schedule it. I'm kidding. So next, try to use your work for your academic requirements. So this is something that I'm lucky with because my course, I like IT entrepreneurship, really revolves around the work that I'm doing. But if you can, try doing it. For example, I have a service design class. Instead of coming with a whole new design for a service, I'm gonna design something for Taiki, my startup. Next, I have my Philippine business environment class. Why would I research on something that I don't know agad? Like, why would I research on, let's say, edtech, if I already work in fintech? So in this project, I used NextPay as my candidate company. So that way, I was merging my work with my requirements and making things faster and easier to do. This one for finance, we had to do like this whole venture screening thing. Why would I screen or why would I work on a new venture when I could just use Taiki? This one's for accounting. OS design was what we called spec studios before. So at that point, why would I use a different company that I don't know? Or why would I come up with an entirely new company if I could just use the finances from our consultancy, from our agency? So try to use the work that you do, whether that be your job, your startup, your side hustle, your business. Use that to submit and answer the requirements that you need to do. It's very smart, very efficient, and something that's helped me for like 4 subjects this semester. Find different ways to work as well. So very helpful because when I'm stuck at home, I get super dead. So find different ways to work. Sometimes it helps to work in a cafe. Sometimes it helps to work in a co-working spot in the office. Sometimes I just like working at home. Maybe instead of this table right here, I'll go to the garden. So don't restrain yourself to just one place to work. Don't just restrict yourself to one area or one type of work. So sometimes I like deep work, doing stuff on my own. Sometimes I'm going to call my friends to co work. So try to find the different ways to work because that way you're going to be more efficient. The thing with us people, this is just my own statement. Thing with us humans, like it's hard to maintain that specific consistent thing that you do every day, or at least with me, right? So for one day, I might want to do this. The next day, I'm going to be super bored if I do that. So I'm going to try to, switch it up a bit. For this day, I'm going to work on my own. The next day, I'm going to co work in a cafe outside for a new environment. The next day, I'll do another cafe. The next day, I'm going to do it back again at home. Working in different environments can help ease your mind, can help lessen that stress and that mental burnout. So at least those are my thoughts. And lastly, understand the concept of the opportunity cost. This will help you say no. So in economics, opportunity cost is a thing. Basically, by accepting this one thing, what other things are you letting go? So if I say yes to this freelance project, I'm letting go of time for self-growth. I'm letting go of time for a different project. I'm letting go of mental load for this project. So understanding the concept of opportunity cost will help you say no to more things. When I was starting off in UX, when I was starting off with this whole tech startup life, I just said yes to everything. But understanding this, understanding that, for example, taking this new project will take away time from me to work on Taiki. Taking this new project will further stretch my time and will make me sleep at 2 a.m. So it lessens my sleep. And in that with that in mind, it's gonna do bad for my health. So understanding the concept of opportunity costs, like it says here, will help you say no to a lot of things, which is really important. When you're working, when you're an entrepreneur, it's important to know when to say no. I did not mean to make that rhyme. So what are some tools that can help you naman with productivity and the balance of school and work? So first is Cron. So Cron is what I use to manage my calendar. I hope you guys take these down because these are my productivity hacks. So Cron is a calendar software that allows me to integrate all my different calendars from different emails. And it also allows me to create booking links for people I'm going to meet with. And it also has this really cool like iOS feature where it's just on like your next meeting is on top and then you can just click it to join. So Cron's helpful for me with managing my time. Notion, obviously, for task management, or I'd like to call it life management. My whole life is in Notion, my finances, my tasks, all my documents, and I use it for everything. So Notion is a really big help for my task management as someone juggling a lot of things. Spark. Spark helps me manage all my emails as well. So instead of having to log into different Gmails all the time, I'm gonna use Spark just to shuffle between my work email, my Madid's email, my Taiki email, my spec email, my school, and my personal. So that way it makes things easier to manage and makes sure you get to make sure that you reply to everything, which I kind of still struggle with. So yeah, and Recona. So I use Recona to manage my tabs. It kind of functions similarly to the folders that you have on Google Chrome, but Recona is a Google Chrome extension that allows you to save resources and make workspaces for each of your different stuff. So for me, it's personal, school, Madi, it's Taiki, and GDSC. And each of these like allow me to manage different tabs, manage different bookmarks, and prevent me from context switching a lot. So that really helps. So these are some of the tools that I use. Now that it's all covered, we tackled what you need to prepare for the entrepreneur life, what are the highs and lows of being a student entrepreneur, and how to balance, being a student and an entrepreneur. Let's get to the mindset of being a student founder. So, one, you're not just here to build, you're here to solve problems. So, what do I mean by that? Basically, I'm not just here to build an app, I'm not just here to build a website, I'm not just here to build another marketplace. I'm here to solve a specific problem that people have. So, Taiki is out here to solve the problem of getting started with your finances. Spec Studios is out here to solve the problem of businesses not being able to create their own websites, stuff like that. NextPay was there to help businesses with managing their finances. Mad Eats is here to help people get faster delivery with really high quality food. So you're here to solve problems, and it's so important to put that into mind because if you start with the idea and notion of just building, you're going to build something that people don't want. And you're not just here to earn money. If you focus solely on how you create your revenue, how you earn from the company, it's not going to be enjoyable. You're going to make yourself stress out even more. What you want to do is shift that mindset. I'm here to help others. In the same line of thinking with solving problems, we're here to help other people with the different problems that they face. Um, Someone here doesn't know how to manage their finances. They're starting to go broke. They're losing a lot of money. So I want to help that person with Taiki. So essentially, think of it that way. Money later. Use the money to maintain the business. But what you want to do first as your mission, as your main goal for building a startup is to help others. And you're not just here to get customers, treating people as customers won't end up nice. You want to treat them as people you're in a community with. So, what do I mean by that? Instead of treating them as customers where you sell something and then buy, you're here to build a community of people who found the same interest or have the same problem. And you're here to help all of them and communicate with them and build something for them. Treating them as a community will allow you to think of them as people that you're working with instead of people that you're selling stuff to. Get rid of that capitalist mindset. And another thing is don't start with a product or solution in mind. So we always say this, find a problem and fall in love with it. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. Without you knowing, you're going to end up falling in love with your solution, and then you're going to stop searching for other ways to solve the problem that you encounter. So find the problem within your community. Find the problem that you personally encounter. Find the problem that your friends or parents encounter. And that way, you're going to be very passionate about the problem because the only thing in your mind is going to be, how will I solve this for Nikki? How will I solve this for Polly? How will I solve this for Luis? How will I solve this for Gio, for Franz? So put that in your mind and find the problem that you want to encounter. Find the problem you encounter with them and that you want to solve for them. In that way, you're going to be really dedicated to it and you're going to find different ways, different solutions that you can just to fix that pain point. And don't always rely on assumptions. Something that's really important is to talk to people. Don't just think, okay, if I build a marketplace, people will like this feature. If I build a financial wellness app, this feature will be enough. No, those are all assumptions. Talk to people, learn from them. Very important. And lastly, don't build a perfect product. Don't be a perfectionist. When I started off in the startup world, I was very much a perfectionist. But eventually I learned that, you want to be scrappy. You want to make do with what you have. You want to ship fast, you want to learn, you want to iterate, you want to keep building iteration after iteration, patong-patong lang yan until you build something that people want. So, yeah, life isn't straight. It's not always going to be upward. It's a roller coaster. You won't always get it right. In my journey, I started pretty much here, went a bit high, then went really low. Now I'm feeling like I'm on a high again, but let's see where that goes. So you won't always get it right, and it's not always going to be easy. So being a student founder adds an extra layer of difficulty, I guess, but it's really worth it if you love the problem that you're solving. It's really worth it if you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing it for, it's gonna be worth it if you really enjoy the whole process. So it's a roller coaster. You won't always get it right. So that in mind, pretty much blabbered about life of a student founder for like an hour. So thank you for listening. So these are where you can find, these are the social links that you can find me on. My website's here. I'm mostly active on Twitter. LinkedIn, I don't check as much. Email, I check every now. I check it every day, but Twitter is the best way to reach me. And for the companies I work on, so Taiki, sign up for a waitlist. Spec Studios, if you have a business or organization that needs a website or a product design, let us know. Mad Eats, order food from us. And Next Pay, if you have a business that needs to manage their finances, sign up. So yeah, thank you so much, and handing it over to Patrice. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much for that insightful and inspiring talk. And as someone interested in how to be a student founder, I could apply the tips and lessons learned today when I begin a similar career in the future. So now, before we continue to our Q&A segment, let's all have a quick 1 minute break. So if you have questions for Mr. Siege, please feel free to chat it in the chat box. Thank you. All right. So I know a lot of you are looking forward to ask questions to know more about the topic today. So we are now opening the floor to some questions. So Eliza will be the one to address you during the Q&A portion. So please send your questions through the live chat box there on YouTube. So hi, Eliza.
Hi everyone, so I'm also a community associate of Ace Commerce and I'll be the host for today's Q&A. So I know you guys have a lot in mind, so please do not be shy to send your questions to the YouTube chat box. So first, someone actually sent a question earlier. They're curious to know what is the most challenging part of being a student founder and how do you handle it? So you listed down the challenges earlier, but what is the most challenging part about it?
I guess being a grade conscious guy, it's still difficult and challenging to make sure that you get high grades while also making sure that you're able to ship and follow through with your plans as a founder. Yeah, I mean it's pretty difficult, especially with group works. Like you don't want to be a freeloader with your group mates, right? So you really have to manage everything while at the same time making sure that if with spec I have to ship my websites on time with Taiki, making sure that the team is properly managed, the team knows what we're up to, and overall just being able to ship what we need to ship. Yeah.
Okay, so since you've mentioned that Taiki and Spec Studios would help small and startup businesses, we actually have some audiences who have those businesses. So, in a specific manner, how would Taiki and Spec Studios help them, like the functions of these platforms for them?
Okay. So the one that's really for businesses is Spec Studios. So in terms of helping you guys, if you need websites or if you need designs for your mobile apps, then feel free to reach us out at specstudios.co. For Taiki, it's not really for businesses. It's more of for people like everyone. It's a consumer app, which we are about to launch. It will help you manage your finances. So if you're interested with that, sign up for the waitlist at taiki.co, and we're slowly letting users into the platform now. Yeah.
All right. So since they've noticed that you're generally a positive person, how were you able to maintain your enthusiasm and motivation throughout the ups and downs of building startups?
Scheduled breakdowns. No joke. Um, Maintaining the enthusiasm. It's really about the people that you work with. Just being able to work with people that are like-minded, even working with your friends. They serve as really good motivation. Another thing is seeing that you're all suffering together makes it feel a little less heavy. Um, but yeah, essentially, what's keeping me up is just the thought that we're building something for others. That I'm working on it with people that I enjoy working with, and eventually, it's gonna help me, earn to make a living. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, what are some things that you have to watch out for if or when you start a business like Nike or Spec Studios?
The most important thing is finding the right people to work with. So when you choose your co-founders, make sure that you're aligned with your values, that the skills that you provide align with each other, and that you're gonna work together nicely as a team. So choosing co-founders is a very difficult thing. Making sure that you really choose the right people is really important. That's one thing you need to look out for. And the other is specific to being a student founder. Just be wary of your load. Make sure that before you get into something, before you start something, nakaya mo pa talaga. Like you can actually manage it, because all of it's gonna come to bite you back in the behind eventually. Yeah.
Okay, so since we're on the uh, topic of finding the right people, how did you set boundaries between personal and professional relationships with your partners?
Work is work, basically. With the people I'm working with, if we get into arguments, it's always going to be about this business. If we get into like heated discussions, it should remain in the business. It shouldn't overlap with your personal life. um a good way that we do it is like we set expectations early on, like, okay, in this meeting we're going to be meeting as co-founders, not as friends. Parang ganun. And just specifying your hours, like by 11 p.m. founder mode is off. And whoever I talk to, I'm talking to them as, like personal friends and all of that. So it's really nice to work with your friends, but it's really, really important to make sure that you set those boundaries to make sure that it doesn't affect your friendship based on experience. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on naman, what are common questions that Taiki and Spec Studios get from your customers? Do they also doubt or trust you more considering that you are students?
For Spec Studios, definitely a little more on the doubt side. So these are companies and higher level organizations that are trying to hire us to build their websites. So a lot of questions revolve around what websites have you built before. So they're really strict about the portfolio. What's your process like? Of course, what's your rate? What's your pricing? How fast or how by when can you deliver this? They really do a background check on you to make sure you're credible, especially as students. We're young basically, and they want to know that we're really capable of building their website or their app or their product design. So it's really important to be able to pitch yourselves properly. Now with Taiki, our customers usually just ask about timelines and all that. They don't really bother with us being students, because we're just building something for them to use, compared to the more pressure that Spec Studios faces, because we're building something that their businesses will use, and that means their businesses success will rely on us. So yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
Okay, so what is a mistake that you made at the start of your career that you want aspiring entrepreneurs to avoid?
Okay, a mistake that I made early on in my career. falling in love with the solution. Um, when you're out to build something, make sure you fall in love with the problem, work your butts off solving that problem, and don't focus on one solution that you're building. Another thing, like I mentioned earlier, make sure that you choose the right people to work with, and also create the right culture for you guys to work with to make sure that your dynamic gels together. So some things that are often overlooked when you're starting, but something that you need to take into account very much more. Another thing is community building. Like first time, it's always a running joke with first time founders that you just build features and ship it. Who cares about marketing? And by the time you're a second time founder, you're going to realize that marketing is really important. So that's another thing. Don't forget about marketing. Don't forget about growth and community building because it's going to make or break the success of your product. Yeah.
So moving on, Roman. Can you describe to us how were you able to market Taiki specs and spec studios, and how were you able to make a community of, with your customers?
Okay. So with Taiki, our main course of marketing is content marketing. Since it's involved with personal finances, we release a bunch of content that helps out and supports and guides people with how to manage their finances. Basic budgeting tips, what to do on paydays, how to get started with NFTs, things like that. So content marketing puts us as thought leaders per se and allows us to reach more people with that content, get better SEO, then help us reach more people. Now, in terms of building the community, we're going to be releasing a Facebook group pretty soon. And we're going to be hosting more webinars, more events that could actually gel the community together and make sure that we're all working together to build that product. Like we may be the team building it, but we also want to build it with you, and we make them feel that through our calls with them, through our interviews, through our customer development sessions with them. So essentially, just talking to them all the time. Now, with Spec Studios, we haven't done much marketing on it. We mostly relied on referrals. We've been tapping on our network to reach more customers, to reach more clients. So, haven't done extensive marketing on it. And like I mentioned, we're really focused on our network for now. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the first steps in doing a freelance job in tech? We want to know.
First steps in doing freelance in tech. Well, build your skills first. Learn if you're gonna code, learn how to code. If you're gonna design, learn the concepts of UX and UI. Just building your skill set will really help you a lot. There's this concept called the key shaped growth, which is essentially this is your skill set. You have design, product management, development, and you wanna hone some of those skills, make them go deeper, and then it's eventually going to be shaped like a key. So that's the best way to approach it. Then eventually, once you're ready, find a client in your network to work with first to test things out and for them to be easy to communicate with. So always start with your network. It's a good way to start freelancing and it's a good way to start getting clients. Yeah.
Okay, so for the last question, what kinds of partnerships is Taiki open to now, and how are you continuing to grow Taiki and Spec Studios?
All right. So at the moment, in terms of partnerships, we're still working on that. Haven't opened it up too much, but what we have been doing is partnering with some communities to help out with financial content, to eventually host financial webinars. So if your community needs some of those, feel free to reach out. With Spec Studios naman, just basic client work. So if you have a client that you need to reach out to, or if you need a client that needs help with building a website, product design, just reach out to us. Yeah, and we're also open to partnering with orgs as like sponsors or promotion partnerships. So yeah.
Thank you, and I'll give the floor back to Patrice.
Okay, so thank you so much, Eliza, and thank you so much once again, Mr. Siege, for answering the questions and for the insightful and informative talk you have shared with me and everyone in this live stream. So, with that, we want to award the certificate of appreciation to you for being our speaker for today. So, Ace Commerce Philippines award the certificate of appreciation to Mr. Siege Atienza for imparting their valuable insight and inspiration at the ACE Commerce webinar entitled Building as a Student Founder, given on this day, May 20, 2022, Manila, Philippines, signed by Fran, CEO and founder of Asia Commerce. So thank you again, Mr. Siege, for being such an inspiration to me and the peoples of today's event. And we really appreciate you allotting time for us. And it was truly an honor to have you speak for us. So before you go, is there anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, I mean, thanks again for having me. And again, if you're looking to manage your finances better, sign up for a waitlist at taiki.co. And if you're a business looking for people to build your website or design your product, then feel free to reach out to us at specstudios.co. Yeah, thanks again so much for having me, Ace Commerce.
Okay, so thank you so much once again, Mr. Siege. So moving on to our following announcement, our weekly webinars will continue next week, May 27, and we hope to see you again for our webinar entitled Quitting Corporate for Entrepreneurship to Build a Brand Consultancy, led by Leonard Grape, the founder and CEO of the Vineyard Brand Consultancy. So you can RSVP on our website for this event. So again, thank you and see you guys next week, same day and same time. So finally, for the last reminders for the participants who would want to have an e-certificate. So please do not forget to create an Ace Commerce account through our website, acecommerce.org, as we give announcement for future webinars where you can RSVP. So please do not forget to answer the e-certificate form that will be sent at the chat box. So friendly reminder that we will strictly no longer entertain concerns about e-certificate and create e-certificate to those who failed to answer the Google form. So please avoid making errors in putting your emails, since incorrect emails will no longer be our responsibility. So if you want to learn more about entrepreneurship and get updated for upcoming events, please like our Facebook page. And in order to connect with fellow entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, you can join our Telegram group so you can network and ask advice from the community. So that's it, guys. And remember that the evaluation form will be closed at 11:59 p.m. only today. So for concerns, kindly message us on our Telegram groups and on our Facebook page. So thank you again, everyone, for joining our event today. And we hope to see you again in our next event next week. So thank you, guys.
Hi guys, I actually